evening and welcome to another exciting show. And tonight we've got Robert, who was our minister, without portfolio. He had a Tesco carrier bag instead. And, and tonight is Robert the Little Red Rooster, too lazy to crow.
To crow today. It's a little Rolling Stones reference.
Oh yes. Oh, Mick Jagger. Sorry,
that's
Mick
the
Jagger.
One. Yeah.
I didn't say Mick Jagger, did I? Because that would have been rude. So we just
yes.
Mm. And you notice that there is somebody missing between us tonight, and it's Deb. Deb is doing missionary work in Grimsby, bringing civilization, Foccum civilization, to the gentle people of Grimsby. And why she's sadly, Deb's father passed last week, and I think she had a little bit of a break there, friends in Grimsby. So if we could send some warm wishes to Deb, she's going to come back soon, and she really sadly missed off the show. So I get used to sort of saying, okay, Deb, Deb's not there at the moment, so she'll be back next week. All being well, that is. That's we don't know when her father's funeral is going to be, and what she's taking sort of obviously as her last parent, because your first parent goes, it's not so bad as it's terrible, yes, as the second parent. I don't know. I think you lost your parents, Robert. I think you have, haven't you?
Yeah, I went out to look for them. I still couldn't get them. So
yeah.
No. Yeah, they're both long gone. It's a little bit like the Mel Brooks joke. When somebody comes up to him and says, "Mr. Brooks, I heard you lost your father." He goes, "No, he died. But if we'd lost him, we would have gone out and looked for him." He said, "So." That's what. Well, the thing about it is, I mean, I sent Deborah. By the way, Deb, I sent her just a private message just to let her know that. Yeah. We're all thinking about it. I think I speak for everybody in the chat. Hi, Kath, Ralphie, Mike, and everybody else. Sorry, Louise as well. I sent her a message to say that we're all thinking about her, and that obviously everything happens for a reason. It's usually the best reason. I know it sounds like a platitude, but I really do believe that. And having lost one of my younger brothers fairly recently, I have to. It's not resigning yourself. It's actually owning up to the responsibility of moving on and doing what you think they would like you to do. So, and I think Deb's a very robust lady, a very robust character, and but I know that she feels it all from us, though. So, group hug, and we'll have another one when Stig gets out of bed a little bit later on.
That's a good. That is absolutely perfectly put. Thanks, Robert. And group hug for Debs. And the strangest thing, I'm probably going off at a tangent before we start the show. Is a long time ago, about 13, 14 years ago, because I started off doing internet radio. I did a show with Michael
Evergreen
Rose.
Radio.
That was it, Evergreen Radio, and it was Michael Rose, the scientific evidence for life after.
I was listening to that the other day, Chris. I've got it loaded on my phone. I was listening to it yesterday.
Wow, you're a mind reader. It's strange because when I'm with Deb, you notice we're a bit sort of like I don't have to say anything. She sort of like reads my mind, and you're reading the mind. There's a
synergy there. Obviously, there's a commonality in what we believe, I suppose, and it's the same with all these ladies and gents in the chat as well. By the way, if she may tune in, Dory, our lady of interesting lineage from the eastern seaboard of America. I think she lives in Connecticut or somewhere like that. She's part something, I think it's Comanche, and the exotic part is Irish, by the way. So she's lovely. She may tune in. So yes, precisely. Yeah. So they hit themselves in the head with a tomahawk. Yeah. So she's one of that. But she's partly like that. But she's lovely though, and she will keep everybody on the toes. She's a great lady.
Oh, that's brilliant. Because I was saying this the other day, I've never met an Australian Aboriginal. Never, ever met one. Very few
No,
people.
no,
And I've never met a true-blooded American Indian, ever.
no.
Well,
Yeah, can't be many of them left.
there's not many left, you
Yeah.
know. And when you think about it, when you look at these people, I've never met an Eskimo. Because I did find out that calling an Eskimo isn't easy.
No, yeah, precisely. They don't like it, do they?
Eskimos.
Yeah, yeah.
And I didn't realise also in North America calling them Yankees. I thought that was an insult. It isn't. They like being called Yankees. Weird,
Jesus,
yeah.
that's phenomenal. That's quite funny.
That was in my relative in Concord, Massachusetts. I
Oh,
don't
right,
mind being
okay.
called Yank. Oh, didn't
Yeah.
know. Anyway, well, with the show now, what we were saying is compulsive believers. Now, there are compulsive liars like politicians and super salesmen, because the super salesman tells you what was it not what you want, but what he makes you believe you want. And with compulsive liars, they need compulsive believers to spread their message. Now, let's face it, you look at people like Stalin and Mao, they were compulsive liars who got compulsive believers. And just think of the hell. Mao was responsible for the deaths of a billion people. A billion.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot of people. And with Stalin, we don't know. Some people say it's 40 million. Some people say it's 70 million. Some people say it's 100 million. But you think about it. Let's say the lowest figure, 40 million. That's about the whole of the United Kingdom up to about past the Midlands. I'd say up to about, draw a line across the United Kingdom, I'd say round about this sort of where John Homer is.
Yeah. Scarborough. Bottom part of Carlisle, that sort of area, yeah.
All that got wiped out, and all you've got is people above.
Yeah.
Scarborough.
My God.
That's a lot of people.
It reminds me of the, I think the quote is attributed to Stalin. He said, "One death is a tragedy. 100,000 is a statistic."
Yes.
And that's he just thought big. It's a little going back to Roger Hayes when we had a chat with Roger Hayes about TAMS.
Yeah.
Sorry to bring up old wounds, people. And I know that some of them
he did very well, didn't he, on this show?
Yeah. Well, you know, he didn't take it personally, and he's a bit of a leathery arsed old seaman, isn't he? So if you'll give me, well, he's a merchant marine, so yeah.
But you know, but the thing
no
is,
pun intended. But what he was talking about, I mentioned that we should actually dream big and plan bigger because they do. That those people that would make our lives a misery and purport to rule us and whatever else, we actually need to think as big as they do. And I think once we do that, we can actually win the day, I think, personally speaking. But anyway, sorry, I'm sidetracking you there, Chris. We're talking about Mr. Stalin.
Well, Mr. Stalin, compulsory believers. Now, I hope I don't come over as smug by what I'm about to say next, because we all at certain parts of our lives, so you could be teenagers, we think we know everything. And I thought, this, and that kind of thing. And I remember when I was a kid looking at the television and thinking, I thought my mummy and daddy had done something wrong. I thought we were all naughty because there's these po-faced politicians telling us that we're all naughty and we got to suffer because of it. And that's what I used to believe.
Yeah.
But that's as a child. But what I've found in the truth movement, especially, now I remember with Professor Gloria Moss, we did a show called Mass Formation, whereas 30% of people will believe anything they're told, 40% go with the flow, and 30% are very much awake of what's going on. Now, that show was taken down by YouTube, and I got a 7-day ban for it.
Jesus.
And they quietly put it back again. It's
interesting.
So you can see it. Now, what I believe, now, if you ask me for any scientific evidence, I haven't got any. If you want any scientific facts, but it's just a rule of thumb, I think different movements, like the truth movement, has, and I know everybody's going to go, oh no, never. 30% of 30%, shall we say, of compulsive believers, 40% who go with the flow, and 30% are possibly question things. Because I've been sucked in, I've been like a compulsive believer. I think we've all, because when I started looking into, now, I don't want to mention any names of shoes or anything like that, because there's no end of people on YouTube. He's a shoe, she's a shoe, he's a this, he's a that, she's a this. Because that's wrong. Because people who do that are questionable themselves. Are they part of GCHQ? Because when these people who are supposed to open up about shoes, when you look into them, they have a massive audience overnight. Now, I've been doing this for what, 13, 14 years, and I've just about got over 1,000 subscribers.
I think you've been shadow banned, by the way. I think you have been shadow banned. Yeah. But sorry, I interceded there, but more about that later. But sorry, Chris, keep going.
That's very kind. Sorry, I don't. But you know, but what I'm going to say, I don't want to. What I'm saying is that what I've found, and this is I'm not being rude to people or anything like that, because we all have different beliefs. For example, when I was young, I used to believe that men landed on the moon until I saw the command module at the Science Museum, and then I realised they didn't land on the moon. And nothing, it doesn't convince me that bring bugs up to the moon in a tin can. No. But the fact of the matter is that a lot of people in the truth movement are, number one, believing controlled opposition. But you can blatantly see is controlled opposition. Again, there's a television station that I believe is controlled opposition. I believe GB News is, because controlled opposition is telling you some truth, some lies, and then nudging you into the right direction by making things seem, of course something this and of course something that. There are one or two things. There's someone from Luton who I very much question, who's, I think, works and has made no secret of it by running around with a flag of a country that we're not allowed to criticise.
Absolutely.
And I believe this person who, shall we say, supports the country that we're not to criticise, and it's in their interests to stir up trouble between Muslims and Christians and keep problems, tensions. Yes, there are Muslim grooming gangs. Yes, there's lots of grooming gangs of all different religions and races. It doesn't mean to say they're all doing it. There's grooming gangs, yes, but of all different races and whatever. So let's be fair about this. If you look at grooming gangs, you've only got to look into what's been happening in Parliament over. So I actually sort of looking at the big problem is nobody, and I'm being careful about that, the point of the finger really is not. Because it's the only war we've fought that we don't know who the bloody hell the enemy is. People say, it's the, it's these. I won't mention any names or anything like that.
Eurasia.
It's the Vatican. Or it's
Eurasia.
This lot, that lot. But who is the enemy? And I've always said it's psychopaths who happen to be more of a certain faith. Psychopaths. It's not to say all those people that faith are like that. It's psychopaths, because they sell their own down the river and they couldn't give a shit about their own. Psychopaths, everything else. I was thinking that submarine. What happened? Isn't it a shame Bill Gates wasn't on there? It's such a shame. I've been saddened all week by it. And anal swab. Wouldn't it be like, should we all have a wet round instead of on a submarine?
Oh, you're kidding me! I'd gladly sell my flat and give the proceeds to it all. I would love to do that. Jeez,
wouldn't it be nice? Wouldn't it? The whole bloody, mind you, you get other assholes turn up, like bad pennies. Wouldn't it? Might be far worse. Or could there be worse? But anyway, I like what Kath Holmes said. I think Yes, from Luton. I think we're talking about. We won't mention his name, Tommy Tucker, because I've actually had people in the truth movement that you say, yeah, but he's controlled opposition. Yeah, but he's telling the truth. Don't you say anything about Tommy, He's telling the truth. You know, and all that. And I used to get nothing but bloody stuff through from him, not him personally, but people that follow him, and also GB News.
His
GB
acolytes.
News.
Yeah.
That's right. I don't watch it. I see it on YouTube. I haven't got telly, so it's difficult to watch it. But it is because, as Yuri Bezmenov said, who was, say he wasn't, that he was in the KGB. He knew his stuff.
Yeah.
He said you got the 4 levels of ideological subversion: demoralization, stabilization, crisis, then normalization. In each one of those areas, you've got to destabilize people first, you've got to demoralize the people, and you've got to get confusion. So you say some truth, some lies, then you raise their hopes, then you dash them, then you raise their hopes again and you dash them. You have false icons, again, and then you keep having, you have people that work for 77 Brigade or whatever they are, that keep putting out that this person's a shill, that person's a shill, she's a shill, that's a shill, to create confusion. So you don't know who to believe in. And I believe the powers that be will create some phoenix out of the ashes. It's not everybody what they want to hear until they get to power, that is. Then you'll find out. And all this rainbow stuff that they're doing, and forget about that once they're in power, because they will be put up against the wall. We will as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Quite right.
So so over to you, Robert. You was going to say sorry.
I think it's when you were saying there was a chap on a phone-in that I was on the Richie Allen show probably about a month and a half, and he was all in on the electric car. He was very fatalistic about the fact that we've CBDCs are coming, they're nearly here, electric cars are inevitable, so why not just fall over? He said, but I'm a conspiracy theorist, he said. And I just thought, well, you can't excuse yourself from the executioner just because you've carried his axe for him. Your head's coming off as well. And this is just simply being an early adopter doesn't mean you're not going to have your head chopped off. It's do you remember the film Darkest Hour with Gary Oldman about Winston Churchill?
I remember the film. I've never seen it.
Anyway, there's a he's arguing with the who was the great big tall chap that that was basically wanting to negotiate with them with Hitler via the Italian ambassador. Halifax. Now Halifax and he were having an argument, and Halifax said, "Winston, please," he said, "you cannot." And he gets up and slams his fist on the table. He said, "You cannot negotiate with a tiger when your head is in its mouth." Now that's the equivalent of these people that throw their hands up and say, "Well, what can you do?" That's the equivalent of them. But those people are going to get eaten anyway, whether they placate the hungry beast or not. Going back to, I made a note about things like them letting your controlled opposition, not controlled opposition, a mass formation program back onto YouTube. It's actually safe to do it now. What they've done is they've desensitized everybody to the extent where even the squares, if you like, even the squares can consume this now. What they've done is they've sanitized it via things like GB News. via things like GB News and the Duke of Sincerity as well, Neil, what's his face? The guy with the beard and the sort of
looks like Jesus. I can't think of
Yeah. He looks like he could have been William Wallace's advisor, No, don't do that. Yeah, don't do that. It'll stop our freedom. He'll be one of those idiots. But now that is the placebo with which they'll administer the drug. That's how I think of it. So what happens is that fairly recently I had some minor surgery. I was taking a fixation fixture, a little metal plate out of my collarbone. Long story short, I was having a chat with the anaesthetist, none of whom, by the way, none of the theatre crew wore masks, not one of them.
Wow.
So Ancient Ruby, I can identify every one of the fuckers. Sorry, anyway, so not Ancient Ruby, I love you. Anyway, so she'll appreciate that. Anyway, so I was chatting to the anaesthetist, and she was telling me what is in the anesthetic. She goes, it's not just pure anesthetic. It's this, it's that, it's the other. It's a what did she say? There's a carrier drug in there that makes it easier for it to go into the vein when they cannulate you. So they don't just jab you and leave you, they cannulate you. So if you're about to wake up, they put a little bit more in. So I said to jokingly, this was at the height of the 91 Divock, by the way. This was at the height of that. And I said, yeah. And I said, how can I trust that you won't jab me with that stuff? And she said, that would be unethical. And I said, it most certainly would. I said, may I go back and get my camera? And then and then I went. But it was quite funny. She was, yes, she was she was a very nice lady. And so far, I haven't got another head out of my backside. Or I might talk out of my backside, but I haven't got a head out of there. So, yeah, precisely. So I haven't done any of that stuff. So I'm pretty sure they didn't do that. But the orthopedic surgeon that did the work, excellent, by the way, he was all in on it. He said, oh, you've got to have your jabs because they'll do you good. I actually said, why? And he did that little trailing off thing, and then he changed the subject. And I just thought, you don't even know what you're talking about, do you? I'll trust you with my bones, but not the stuff surrounding it, thank you very much. You're an orthopedic surgeon, you know about bones and stuff. I mean, if I wanted you to boil me down and make some Robert stock, that'd be fine, but I wouldn't trust you with the meat. That's what I'm saying. So these things, it's actually, going back to what I said earlier on, it's the placebo effect. And in terms of believers, I don't know if anybody in the chat has noticed this lately. Just on my general travels, I've noticed Muslims praying in the street.
Really? I haven't noticed.
Actually, one guy stopped his Uber. He had his, it was literally outside the flat where I live. Got his compass out to find where Mecca was. It's actually in the opposite direction to Marks and Spencer's, by the way, so just in case you're looking. Anyway.
Excellent.
Precisely. So he
because we know who Marks and Spencer's, don't we?
Precisely, yes. So anyway, he wants his backside facing Marks and Spencer's.
Yeah.
Anyway, he started headbutting the floor and giving it the ace, jack, queen, king, or whatever the Islamic guys do. And out of respect, I sort of walked well around him, out of respect, because it is a belief, and in the word belief and believe, there's the word lie.
Yes.
That tells everybody what they need to know.
Wow, yeah, I've never thought of that.
So I hadn't either. I tell you who put me onto that was the chaps from the sheep farm, the guys up Dom and Christian Waterson, who probably won't be listening tonight, but I love you guys. But they're fantastic, by the way. Anybody who's never heard them, sorry to plug another show on here, Chris, but it's worth listening to. Anyhow, it has lie in it. So a belief is an actual faith. St. Augustine said belief or believing, a faith rather, is believing what you do not yet see. So we have a faith. There's a God out there. Those Islamic chaps. There was another guy that stopped his delivery van. No, he was teaching somebody to drive. I tell a lie. He stopped. He had nobody in the passenger seat. So he pulled over, and he was in the middle of the street. Had his compass out and started doing his things with the washing and all the ceremonial stuff. And I just thought, you don't see that. You don't see Christians crossing themselves anymore, unless they're Irish Catholics by and large, or Portuguese or Spaniards or something like that. They're still very connected to that Catholic paradigm, if you like, that the original sin and all the rest of the things that go with it. So I just wanted to kind of mention that because I thought it was an interesting thing. I put it down in my notes.
Yeah, it's more sort of London. By the way, that swab that to check, because I've had it up my nose, not right up, but just around.
Right.
Did you have that? Did they check you to see if you got something? Do you have the swab around your nose?
What it was is that. Sorry, I was just reading John Barcelona. Hi, John. Semper Fidelis, my friend. So I'm not worthy to give the salute, but I'll give you one anyway. So, John, don't you? John Barcelona.
John, yeah.
Yeah. Our friend from California, from Alabama.
Shall we shove him on? Hang on. Here he is. Robert is great. Yes, he is. He would go over big here as an influencer in America. Can you speak American though, Robert? You got the phrase book.
Sure, I can.
These are suckers. Right,
John would appreciate that because he's deep in Alabama now, isn't he?
English
deep in
accent.
Alabama.
Yes,
John. Good evening to you, sir.
Hello, John. They even go goofy over fake offset like Mel Gibson puts on. Because I think John's been to England several times, hasn't he?
Yes, he has. He
deserve that.
He downed gear in a couple of places, and when he was in, I think, the Air Force or the Army, because I know he was a Marine at one point.
I think.
I know he was a Marine at one point, and then I think he joined the Air Force. But I know his son is flying off carriers. He's an aviator.
Yeah.
His son's a Top Gun.
Hey.
Yeah, he flies Hornets.
Really?
Yeah, so
that's pretty good, isn't it?
That's the one. Now he flies F-18s, if my memory serves me correctly. Yeah. And if anybody gets up John's nose, he will get their coordinates and call an airstrike on them. So when he's out through San Diego, he could just zip up the coast, and that'll be it.
We won't tell him that.
Absolutely not.
William, the old toxic armourer bloke. He's up in where is he? Some crappy place. He's up near the other side, isn't he? He's nowhere near Alabama. But,
you're talking about Harry? You mean the Prince?
No, I'm talking about Bill Gates.
Oh no, he's in Seattle.
He's in Seattle. Yeah.
Yeah, he's in Seattle as far as I know. Yeah.
No, it's funny because John Badger, he must have been in the Air Force Base training in Norfolk, so he landed in Norfolk. And that must have been fun with an Norfolk accent. Oh, hello, You'd have had a lot of Chris the Gardeners coming up. Oh, hello.
Yeah, precisely. Yeah. What you blaring about?
What's going on here? Yeah. I'll tell you what, a great Norfolk one is.
Yeah.
Around. That's not I had this from a bloke from Norwich. You pissed boy me around.
I tell you what, it was great to see Chris. I mean, because obviously I've heard him on Richie's show, and we've exchanged messages, but it was nice to see what one another look like and whatever else. And I hope it hasn't scared him off for life, seeing what I look like. So it would be, but going back to my notes here, Chris, we're led by media. Now, media could be it could be the propaganda wing of the people that we see, the powers that be or the powers that shouldn't be. And I don't believe there was one faction here, Chris. We said in our pre-game chats that we obviously Professor Mars and whatever else. So it's not one faction. I think it's a number of factions, probably 3, that are fighting over the laurels, let's say, for instance. But the thing about it is, what they're wanting to do is they've banded together to fight us. When we're done with, then the battle royal will start. Then what they'll do is will go against one, or they'll be a three. Yes, that's right, John Mildenhall. I'm sorry, I forgot. Sorry about that. But I think then the battle royal will start, Chris. what will then happen is we'll start to get, for those of us that are still alive, we may have a front row seat to some serious bloodletting. And I'm talking about, these are people that don't have to make excuses to anybody. They own money, for instance, as we know it. You know, those little pound, the dollar bills, or euro bills, or coins, or whatever we have jangling around in our pockets and purses. They own that. They own it, so they don't have to make excuses to anybody. So, have you noticed now that they're making less excuses? Hence them putting your show back on. They don't need to lie about things anymore. Now that bar will actually start, that bar of decorum, if you want to call it that, will start falling down. And the veil is slipping already. People like Ruby, people like Louise, and people like Kath and all those guys, they already see this. They already see this. They know that this is there. Many of them have battened down the hatches, and they're in their own cells and sorting themselves out. But what? Right. Okay. Sorry about that. So I was just reading something that Ruby wrote to me, but we can pick it up. Are we going to do comments in a sec?
We're going to do comments in a minute. I mean, we could go into comments for a little bit.
Let me just finish this thought before it falls out of my head. So we'll have a front row seat. There may not be many of us left, but there will be even fewer of them left, Chris, because they are but a few. We are many. We are many. And the thing about it is, John would appreciate this, but he's not. He's a fixed wing guy, not a rotorcraft guy. But the film The Last Castle with Robert Redford and God rest him, James Gandolfini. It's about an American general that gets put into a military prison for countermanding orders. And what happens is there's a very tyrannical head warden, if you like, who's a colonel, who has all these military pretensions and great film if you haven't watched it already. But he has all these great military pretensions, and he has flags and swords and grenades and pistols. Never shot his weapon in his life. Whereas you've seen the Robert Redford character he's got a Medal of Honor, he's got Purple Hearts up the kazoo, he's got Silver Stars, Bronze Stars, the whole 9 yards. Now, he's a soldier's soldier. And he goes up against the tyrannical James Gandolfini character. In the end, I don't want to give a spoiler alert, but in the end, it comes to a bit of a conflict in the end. But you see him actually planning a battle, whereby one guy who's actually put in the military stockade for being drunk and on duty commandeers the helicopter that oversees them, that overflies them somehow. I think they put a piton up there and scale up the rope ladder. He knocks the pilot out and takes the controls of this helicopter or rotorcraft, and then he starts strafing the guard towers. But it's great if you haven't seen it before. But it gives you that kind of this is what will happen. You'll get a lot of little breakaway elements. That will actually end up basically, I'd like to think, I won't say I believe, but I have a strong inkling and instinct that they'll end up destroying themselves. They'll end up eating themselves.
Spot on. Yes, I agree with you there, because I'm actually optimistic about everything that's happening. Now,
I am
for
too.
Example, they're talking about a cashless society. Awful. It's awful. But I always look at a disadvantage as an advantage, because a good general turns a disadvantage into an advantage. Okay, they have their cashless society. Yeah. So we invent our own currency, and we use our own currency.
Bradbury pound.
That's it. Similar. See, the thing is, what gets me with a lot of these truth movements, they're going round like a dog chasing its tail. They're not getting it, because they go on a march. Yes, those marches are organised. And really, it's a data gathering session. Oh yeah,
you're quite right.
Someone's there, this is there, this is it. But nobody's saying, okay, we have a problem. We've got an enemy which is out to kill us. So how are we going to deal with that? Now, I believe the enemy are psychopaths, but I don't believe, I mean, I make a joke about capital punishment, saying, yeah, I'd like to string that up and things like that. But seriously, you need a psychopathic mind to do that. And people say, oh, yeah, I'd do it, until it comes to it. Until it comes to it, you can't take a life. Because we've got in our brain, we can't do it. Really.
Yes.
Now, my feeling is put them on an island with all the infrastructure there and everything, and let them live their lives out on an island, on their own. Don't kill them, just put them away. Give them everything they want, but don't let them mix with us. How you do that without starting a witch hunt, I do not know. But the one way of bringing them down is, and it's true, what Roger Hayes said, is by currency. Because they got the upper hand, because they've got the ultimate weapon, which is money, finances. And once we design it, and every country that has abolished usury has been for it. Now,
yes,
I'm going to get myself into hot water now by what I'm going to say. And people go, oh, I've had a lot of stick from this. But World War II was about usury. That's really what it was about.
Most wars are. Most wars are. Yeah.
Because a certain person in 1933 abolished usury, and the banks couldn't allow them to get away with it. Because if it spread and other countries were getting ideas about it, then, now for people, that would have been the end of the, shall we say, the banking fabrics that had been finished overnight. And a little rough, very shallow history here. Edward I, Longshanks, he abolished usury and booted out all the financial scammers, usury scammers. And for 300 years, this country used what is called tally sticks. I don't know if you've ever heard of a tally stick, where you have two sticks that will match. And this country prospered for 300 years.
I've been reading that in the book Debt, by the way. Yeah, just but I'll come back to that later. Sorry, Chris.
That's okay.
Tally sticks. Go on, carry on.
And then Oliver Cromwell came along, and the only way he could raise money for his new model army was to go to the Netherlands amongst the bankers, and I said that with a B, over there. They said, yes, we'll give you money, not necessarily exactly as I'm saying it, but it is written down and you can look it all up. Yes, we will give you money for your new model army, but there's strings attached. You will allow us back into your country and start the Bank of England, and you'll reintroduce usury. And of course, the rest is history, because then Oliver Cromwell, who's ranked as the most worshipped, actually got future generations into massive debt. And this is the reason why we're being taxed like to the hilt. Because we're paying back a debt that can never be paid back, which inflates all the time. That's the way usury works. But it's the elephant in the room that if you talk to your local MP about it, they'll run a mile. My one did. So what's your party going to do about abolishing usury? Thank you very much. Goodbye. Off.
Yeah.
They either know about it or plead ignorance. Well, what usury was that? Well, Einstein said it's the eighth wonder of the world. It's a wonder that can get away with it.
Yeah.
Because it's basically making money out of money, out of money, out of money. And we're being held to ransom. Now, we have got to find a way, of defeating, that is the enemy, so I think Roger Hayes is correct, we do need our own currency, but I disagree with the way he was going about it, politely and respectfully. I mean, I think
Chris is here. Chris the gardener. Hi, Chris. How you doing, brother?
Is he really?
Sorry about that. Yeah, he just arrived. Sorry about that.
Chris, I'm sorry. Right. So that is the thing. So what should we go to chat now? Because
yes, please. We need to. I think we need to.
We need to. Yeah. Now, there's a load here that I'm terribly sorry. I can't get to everybody. He said, please don't take it personally if I don't read your question out. Okay. So I'm reading it from the top. Cat Holdsworth. It's all right. Robert there's got a separate screen he's looking at because he's doing this on his phone, so that's why he's looking at the screen there. And you notice when Robert's talking,
sorry,
I'm going,
folks.
No, I have to apologise as well because
Yeah.
Deb, she's normally going through the chat room. You see, she's the
Yes.
whereas I've got to do it. So as Robert's speaking, I'm going. I think ignorant sod. He's not listening to Robert. Well, I'm a man. Like I need to do one thing at a time. Anyway, got Cat. Cat Holdsworth. Hello, Cat, or Kath rather. Hello, everyone. Hope all is well with all. Don't forget to give show thumbs up. Bless you.
Yeah. Thanks, Kath. 7 is absolutely pitiful. You should be ashamed of yourself, one and all. Absolutely disgraceful.
Well, at least people know because as Deb said, she said you can. Do you know you can actually buy numbers of people for your show? That's how these people get enormous numbers overnight. Well,
I think they're purchased for them, by the way, as well.
Purchased, yes.
Oh yeah.
PR
companies, things like that. Yeah.
After 13 years, 14 years. So here we go. Emin, I won't bother with your surname. Hope you don't mind. Sudama. Emin says, believe in something compulsively is the same as believing something without knowing why you believe in it. Yes.
Interesting.
Yes. Too many compulsively believe in truther memes. Yes.
Absolutely right. Yeah.
I'll tell you one that gets me. Now, I'm not being rude to American Indians. We might have a part American Indian on the show.
Yes.
I can't speak for her. But all this crap that's said about them. Because, for example, was it the Hopi ear candles? The Hopi Indians.
Hopi.
Apparently, it's the hippies in the 60s that invented them. And there's a lot of things like dream catchers, and if you go to Glastonbury, you get all this ancient wisdom. Well, yes, there was some peaceful tribes, but there's some bloody aggressive ones. They used to skin people alive, peg them out in the hot desert, torture them. So all this sort of, Dances with Wolves, very nice bit of Hollywood there, but they weren't all peace and love.
No, of course not. You're quite right. You're quite right.
But now, AKA conspiracy bait, AKA disinfo. Yes.
Yes. Quite right.
Now we've got exactly, Chris, and so bloody evil. I am so done with this world. Oh, I know you're not.
I hope not too soon, Ruby. We need people like you.
Yes, we need you. Right. I can't be doing with the alphabet spaghetti brigade.
Alphabet spaghetti. I remember that.
Yes.
The alphabet, the letter shapes when you were a kid. Yeah.
Yes. They don't understand. They have been conditioned into all for nefarious agenda.
She's quite right. Misdirection, misinformation, confusion, smokescreen, hall of mirrors. Call it what you will. I mean, you can always guide and rule a population if you keep them off balance. Fear, confusion are two sides of the same coin, and they flip that coin on a regular basis.
Yuri Bezmenov said this in the 1980s. Genius. And whatever they say about him, there are some Russian ex-spies and whatever that don't like him. I don't give a damn because I like him. I think he's on the button, and I'm rather suspicious of those, that say. Ancient Ruby had 2 chicken wings, 2 drumsticks. I took his cushion, Christine, around the back of the caravan. He's not done it before. No, I think as a private chat, I've accidentally got into.
I think it might be.
Sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
Yes. The powers that be. This is Mike. Right. Hello, Mike. Powers that be are only interested in the environment when there's profit in it. Oh, by the way, I've got to say good evening to Ted. Ted's been sending me some very nice emails. Evening, Ted. How you going, mate? Sorry I haven't answered your last email. The reason why is because I'm a lazy sod. Well, being honest, didn't I? No, I've been a bit tied up this week. Right, Cat Holdsworth says, only interested in full-on hoaxes. The crime crew that be. Yes, the people are saying that sort of submarine might have been a hoax, called the Titan, after the name of a book that was written in 1899 about a ship called the Titan that sunk virtually, I think, the same way as the Titanic, or the Olympic, shall we say?
Yes, the Olympic, yeah, precisely.
Kath Holsworth says, more about power and control now, as they already have the money. Yes, you're right there. Now, we've already read this one out, or is it? We've already read this one out. Robert is great. Yes, great.
Thank you, John. You're very kind, sir. Thank you very much.
We've already read it. So, right. Sounds just like stop oil tactics. This is Emin. Well, the stop oil, that is controlled opposition. Which is failing.
I heard that Stop Oil is actually funded by one of the Getty family. Of
and
all things.
I believe the
the Gettys are. That's how they made their money in oil, in crude oil. But sorry, carry on, Chris.
That's okay, because I'm actually writing. I'm trying to do another edition of the Book of All Time.
Yes.
And I'm actually. Don't tell anybody this. So just keep it between you and I, Robert. That I've got a page of snotty letters that people are writing in. Guess who's writing the snotty letters? Sir, I've never read such smut and filth as this. Could I order 6 more copies? You know.
Yes, precisely. Yeah. There was something I spoke
to it. You know, when I say contribute, you might want to write a few bits in it. You know, it's satire. We just take the P all the time. That's all it is. Because that's what we need, satire. We've got to laugh. Anyway, Louise Wilcox says, the Muslim praying in the street was right because churches, synagogues, mosques are all places of false worship. I agree there. We have to believe in us and pray our morals keep us correct, because religion will not. Bloody spot on there.
Yes.
I believe that my church is nature, woods.
Yeah. And if there is a God and he or she, it, the entity, whatever you want to call it, is omnipotent, you shouldn't really have to go too far to find it.
That's right.
It's a little bit like Deliveroo for the soul, isn't it? Yes. If you think about it that. So what? Because Wayne Hyatt, Foxy, my bushy-tailed friend, is in the chat. Now he spoke a little bit about faith earlier on. I wanted to kind of see if I can find that, but you know, it's faith, love, spiritual connection, whatever you want to call it, is all around us. I mean, we shouldn't need a label to put on it. We shouldn't need Islam, Judaism, Buddhism, Sikhism, Hinduism, or whatever to prove that we're human beings and we're humanitarians. So if I'm any religion, I'm a humanist, if you want to call it that.
I am. Let's put it this way. If there was an accident and there's someone, say, trapped in a car, you're not going to check whether they're Muslim, Buddhist, or whatever. No, you're going to smash the glass and drag them out. Yeah, and I'm pretty sure that a Muslim would do that to a Christian, anybody who saves someone's life, because you're human, you believe in humanity, and you look after humanism. But the big problem with spiritual awakening, and this is the big problem, spiritual awakening was invented by the secret services after the First World War, because whilst people are waiting for a spiritual awakening, they're not getting things done. They're not fighting the enemy. You all right, mate? Yeah, they're not fighting the enemy. They're not taking on the enemy. They're not finding out what's going on really in the world. And if you look at Yuri Bezmenov, he says that. He said they want people to believe in some spiritual thing that's going to happen, because then they won't do anything to change things. But we've got another one here. It says John Bassing-Lone was it Alabama? Is that got that right? Alabama?
Well, he's from California originally. He's a sun god, isn't he? He's from the sunshine.
It's commie formula, isn't it? Commie formula.
Yeah, California. Yeah.
Oh yeah, because John Hamer said that commie formula is just slightly right of Chairman Mao. Slightly left of Chairman Mao. That's it. Slightly left of Chairman Mao.
It were ever thus about California. Thank you, John, by the way. That's very kind of you.
Your memory, Robert, is phenomenal. Thanks, John. That's good, you know. Now, so John Bosino, that is exactly correct. He was just selected as, that's his son, I think, John Bosino's son, as being on staff at Top Gun in Nevada.
Bloody hell.
Bloody
Jesus.
hell, that's pretty good. Actually, we might have some work for him in the future.
Oh, yeah,
work for him. You know, it's I'm joking.
I'd like to ask John how much is a sidewinder on the open market, so if he can get straps onto his son's plane and just nuke some of these guys. But that
Does
is.
he know where Davos is? Could you find that?
Yeah, precisely.
They're all meeting. Mind you, it'd only be a one-way journey, I think, with those bastards.
John, send him hearty congratulations from me.
Yes.
That is it's a hell of an achievement getting in one of those things without crashing the bloody thing anyway. But bloody hell, I mean, to be instructing people to do that is phenomenal. So big congratulations from me, massive.
Yes, and same here. Great congratulations. Because I don't know, he might be able to correct me on this. I believe I was watching a documentary the other day that said that America learned a lot from Vietnam, and they at least, although they had good planes, they didn't have guns on them. And a lot of the pilots were saying, because the elite who designed was the advisor said, "Oh no, we just need missiles now," whereas the North Vietnamese were getting the upper hand because they still had guns on their planes, and they made a big mistake, and they trained their pilots to a new level. So they learned a lot. It's my attitude. There's no such thing as a disadvantage. That was a learning curve. Unfortunately, though, it took a lot of lives with it.
It costs lives. But John will probably attest to this, that they used the jets were too fast for close the contact drills for the ground and ground support. So they used prop planes. They would use something that would be like a Mustang or something like that, or maybe something faster. Yes. That's it. And they used them with cannon on them and napalm bomb, but they would fly a lot slower. So one of my favorite planes of all time, personally, is the F4. Now that came about in around about the Vietnam era, I guess, but. I think they decommissioned it shortly after.
That's the Phantom, isn't it? The F4 Phantom?
That's the one, yeah. A lot of people call it an ugly plane, but I just think it's very beautiful. Personally, I think it's a beautiful plane. But I thought to myself, well, that was a lot slower than other jets that came directly after it. And that's partly why it was so successful. That's just my humble opinion, but I know for a fact that they used props because they needed to fly slower for ground support and actually observe, because I mean, when you're zipping over in a jet, you can't really, even with today's technology, it's fine because you've got the cameras that are a millionth of a second and that can actually bring you back data, feed it back to your base or your vessel that you're flying from. But when you're in a prop, you're a lot more vulnerable, but you're a lot more flexible. I would have thought so. But so it's funny how old technology can be pressed into use. It's like the scene in The Last Castle, where they use catapults and things like that instead of firearms because they didn't have any, the prisoners. So, but anyway, sorry, I'm digressing.
In the First World War, they actually used the equivalent of a crossbow.
Right.
Yes, they did. To actually
that would make sense.
Grenades into the following trench, and it was basically similar to a crossbow, and it was sort of ground launched to launch grenades. But
you're talking about the Piat. You're talking about the Piat.
No, not the Piat. No, the Piat was anti-tank.
Right. Okay.
This was in the First World War in the trenches. How to lob a grenade into the other trench.
See, the First World War. Sorry,
the equivalent of a crossbow.
Right.
Very similar to a crossbow. It's all boing, just flying over.
Grief, my God.
In Vietnam, they used the C-47 Skytrain, which was basically a Douglas DC-3 Dakota, which was used in the Second World War, especially on D-Day. And they mounted great big guns on it. And they called it Puff the Magic Dragon because it used to go out and just obliterate whole areas. But what we got? Sorry, we got. I think we're both a couple of aircraft enthusiasts. So.
Sorry, I'm so sorry, everybody else in the chat. We're running
Yeah,
away.
we're getting carried away there, Carl.
We're getting off topic here. So.
Was that like a North Virginia accent? I don't know what it was, mate. I think.
Okay, thanks, so. Yeah, thanks, so. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, Louis Wilcox says, "Come on, Chris. It's Kaiser Gates, please."
That's actually very good.
Yes. Now, personally, I flew into Mildenhall on a few occasions. Oh, you poor sod! Did you get over it? Did you need counselling afterwards? Going to Mildenhall?
Lakenheath. Oh, good.
I'm being rude. It's nice.
Yeah.
Did you know that Mildenhall? I don't know if you ever had that show called Dad's Army in America. I very much doubt it. But that's actually.
They may have done.
Yeah, that was supposed to be Kent, but it was actually Mildenhall. They filmed it.
Good
we
grief.
always stayed at the smokehouse.
Yeah.
We would shoot over to Cambridge and sometimes head over to Lakenheath. Yes, Lakenheath. Yes, to Cambridge, the land of bicycles. Yes, there we go.
Yes, yeah.
Robert, may I ask you what your intentions are, and how will it benefit the people?
Well, I have to qualify this, Ruby, by saying I'm a man of absolutely no power whatsoever. The only power I've got is actually when I get up and walk. So if you're asking me what my wish is for mankind, is just for us to remember that we have a common bond. We're all human, and it's us versus them. And it doesn't matter whether your suntan is permanent or it's whatever. It doesn't matter whether whether you walk around with a permanent headdress on or yarmulke. I don't care. I think what happens is that an ancient Ruby will attest to this, because she's very plugged into the spiritual side from what I can remember, as are Louise and Kath and the rest of the girls there. But they're letting us, or allowing us, or enabling us, or assisting us to forget that we're human. We are human first of all. It's a little bit like the Kennedy thing, that we all breathe the same air and we all love our children. So once we get back to that and plug that in, everything else falls into place, in my humble opinion, Ruby. I'm sorry I couldn't give you a better answer, but
that's a good answer.
That's what I would say.
That's a good answer. See, the thing is, if you look at we've got to understand real history, because we've been told, because all it is, what has been history, when I was at school, it's the old kings and queens and how ruthless they were, shoving daggers up people's backsides and disembowelling people. And then you have slave trade, all how nasty this, that, yeah. But the slave trade, we've only been told a small part of the slave trade.
They say nothing of the collusion of one tribe selling another. Morning, Stig. Sorry about that. I just saw you come up. Watch a Stiggy boy. Sorry about that. Yeah. So they say nothing of things like the Barbary pirates. Now this will go back to John. I mean, that was the U.S. Marine Corps' first action. That's their first laurel, if you like. Their first battle honor is what's it called now? It's in the Marine song as well. Now he'll probably pipe up in chat and tell us what it is. But they were fighting the Barbary pirates, and they were dispatched by, I think it was Thomas Jefferson or somebody like that. He said, "Look, go and sort these guys out. We're paying them, and they're committing piracy on our vessels. So let's sort them out." So they clobbered the Barbary pirates and gave them a right good kicking, basically.
And also the British Navy.
Yes.
The British Navy in the 1830s, there's a fantastic photograph. Whether it's posed or not, well, it's obviously posed because cameras weren't very good. This must have been a bit later because photography didn't come along until the 1850s. And
so they tell us. So they tell us.
But you see an African like this, a British sailor releasing his chains, releasing him. And they actually went and tried to, they said they stopped slavery. If you can believe it. But you see, when you look at it, I mean, Lloyd's Bank, they started in the coffee houses where they used to do business to do with slavery. But,
can confirm.
But somebody once said to me, he said, well, you look at if you were a Victorian born into poverty, you were a slave to the local factory owner.
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely.
I think they got Christmas Day off and Sunday, and that was it.
Yeah, peerage.
from dawn to dusk.
Yeah.
So you just slaved your guts out all the time. So really, when you look at it, we hear about the terrible sides of history, but when you listen, for example, about the World War II, I've often said both sides, and this happened in the First World War as well, they didn't want to kill each other,
Of
especially
course not.
conscripts, and they would
Absolutely.
often risk their lives to save the life of an enemy person. So
Quite right.
that's humane. You don't hear about that, but it did happen because my
It's a
father
li-
witnessed
I was
it several times.
just gonna mention your father with the German stretcher bearers.
Yes, German stretcher
Yeah.
bearers,
Putting
and
their
they.
lives at risk
Hmm.
to save another human being. He spoke a different language, he wore a different uniform, but he had two eyes, a nose, and a mouth, and he was breathing. And he was basically, for all those who believe it, he was created by God for Earth. Now, again, it goes back to what I said to Ruby earlier on. That's my biggest wish for mankind is that we just remember our humanity. Whoever we are, wherever we come from, whatever accent we have, whatever color our skin is, whether we've got 4 legs, 2 legs, 1 leg, it doesn't matter. I don't care. We just need to remember that, and then the rest will fall into place. We really, really need to do that.
That's right. I agree with you, because also there's a saying that was in a country that we're supposed to be, we think was terrible, that was said in the 1930s, that did naughty things. Yes, I don't. But was one thing that a person with a moustache said, and he said, with a lifeboat, the strongest get to the lifeboat first.
Yes.
They get into the lifeboat, but then they help the weakest up into the lifeboat.
Yes.
And you said that's what society should be like. The strongest get there, yes, but then they help the weakest up to survive.
Yeah, that's quite right.
So that is a very good analogy, I think. That yes, you let the strongest get through, but then the strongest help the weakest to succeed. Now we got here about Norfolk. By the way, did you know? I heard a person had a bungalow called Norfolk space in Chance. Seriously, they had a bungalow called Norfolk in Chance. Yes, the Norfolk accent is a strange one, Chris. The gardener doesn't have the broad accent. Because I think there's different parts that you go to. If he did, none of us would have understood a word. Trust me, I've lived in Norfolk. Yeah, I think the Suffolk one.
It's a subculture, isn't it? It really is a subculture.
Oh, it is, because let's face it, you don't go there unless you need to go there, because you bypass it. It's in a peninsula. But why is it only East Anglia, as we said last week? Why isn't there North Anglia or South? I mean, where we are, you're only about, 20 miles from me?
Yeah, I'm just down the road from you, yeah.
Sort of East Anglia, really. We're just on the border of East Anglia.
Yeah, we're on the shoulder of East Anglia, yeah.
But
it's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. Now we've got here, Robert, I've had more kisses from you than other in 7 years. That's from Ancient Ruby.
And here's another one, Ruby.
Oh, isn't that lovely? That's it. Is it? Ancient Ruby, 2 kisses for you. That's it.
Yeah.
But hang on. No, my breath stinks a bit tonight. Sorry about that. Eating onions. Yeah. Now, Urban Fox says, now faith is assurance of things hoped for. A conviction of things not seen is actually from the book of Hebrews. It could be said that without faith and hope, we may as well give up now. That's true, because they did a survey after the Vietnam War, and the POWs, the ones that had faith, survived. The atheists didn't much, because they believed the people that had faith believed they were going on to something better. But the atheists said, well, they died. Which is seriously, they reckon that the fiercely religious people did survive, and because they had a positive thing. Did you ever see that with Ray Mears? It was amazing. 2 lifeboats from a sinking ship. One had a very positive captain on board the lifeboat, and the other one had a very negative. And they showed you they'd video film of them picking up these lifeboats, and the one where the captain was negative the people were being taken off on stretchers, and they had exactly the same food rations and everything, and they had to spend some time in hospital afterwards. Yet the people that was in the lifeboat where they were positive, walking up the deck going, like this, and sort of chatting to each other. Oh, well, amazing.
It's like the movie The Cruel Sea with Jack Hawkins.
That's it, yeah.
It's another great movie. If you guys haven't seen it, watch it. It's fantastic. You'll probably get it free on YouTube. There is they're shipwrecked twice, aren't they? They're actually sunk twice in the film. And in the first one, the Jack Hawkins character is keeping everybody going by actually having a quiz in his lifeboat.
Yes.
Yeah, and he's saying it's got a very young Donald Sinden in it, and Denol Menert and people like that. Yeah. So he's saying, well, what's a bar shoe? And somebody said, well, it's a thing for towing caravans, sir. He goes, yeah, everybody clapped like that. So he was keeping their spirits up and keeping them warm as well, and they survived. But there were the other ones that panicked that died. So there's an analogy here for us, or a metaphor, if you want to call it that. We mustn't panic. We must, again, remember our humanity. Remember that we're all in the lifeboat. We're all in it.
We are. Oh, by the way, I like the T-shirt. Was it Not Convinced? I like that.
What it is it's from UK Column. Now, I don't know if everybody can see it. It says Not Convinced, but there are certain letters that are highlighted.
Yes. It shows something that we mustn't talk about.
Yes, precisely. Yes, yeah. 91 Divrik, yeah. But I've had this. I think I bought 2 of these, by the way. But it's when I first started listening to them, and I still get little vignettes of really good information from them. But
yes,
I don't buy in wholesale to anybody, to be honest with you. I take what I can from everybody. I take what suits me, what makes sense, and then go to the next tray. It's like an order. It's like a tapas bar or a buffet, if you like. You can't just eat the roast beef. You've got to have trimmings. You can't just eat the paella. You've got to have trimmings with it. So this is what I think somebody said that earlier on about truthers and memes and things like that. That we buy into it very wholly, and we don't bother digging deep enough into them. And sometimes you can literally be led down a Freudian dark alley. I mean, some of these people that you mentioned earlier on, Chris, are Judas goats. They are put there to lead us into this Freudian dark alley of the soul, from which we'll never return. We'll never get out of that dark alley, that dark place. And I could mention there's a guy that's you could call him sort of shiny as a new pin, you see what I mean, as in brand new. First name Russell. Anyway, people like him.
Yes.
The Vishnu, that's the one, the Vishnu come lately. Now, the thing, where did he come from? He wasn't particularly funny or talented or whatever else.
Multi-millionaire?
Well, apparently he's got quite a sizable third leg, apparently. Somebody told me. But anyway, that's something for the girls. But what I'm trying to say is that he came up apparently from nowhere. 1 minute he's pranking, is it Andrew Sachs? Not Andrew Sachs, the guy, Nigel, is it Nigel Hawthorne? He's not Nigel Hawthorne. No, the guy from Yes Minister, Nigel.
It was Nigel Hawthorne and
Chris something. Anyway, he was the guy that was a very, very sarcastic fella that was the mover and shaker on Yes Minister.
That was Nigel Hawthorne.
That's the one. Okay, Nigel Hawthorne. So he's pranking him with Jonathan Ross, if anybody remembers this. And then all of a sudden, he's censured for it, and he's almost cancelled before cancelling was a thing. And then he disappeared, went to America for a while, made a few movies, came back, and now he's this reinventing himself as this Vishnu come lately. And he was allowed to mention it. He was allowed to mention that when nobody else was. And he went from 0 to 400 miles an hour to takeoff speed in a blink of an eye. And now he's got millions of followers on YouTube. He's starting to crop up on what we see as the old channels now. Rumble, Odyssey, that sort of thing.
I've noticed that.
Brand new tube. Yeah. And you think to yourself, well, okay, we've got to be careful. We've got to be careful whose mast we sort of nail our colours to, if at all. And I think it's probably listen to everybody, follow no one.
You're right. And also, the thing that gets me is that the elite do things behind closed doors.
Absolutely.
We don't know what's really going on at the World Economic Forum. We don't know what's really going on behind closed doors with the banksters. But
Absolutely.
we have to do everything in the open air, even though our advantage is mass. We outnumber them by thousands, but millions to one. But the big problem is, I personally believe, ignoring them. That's the best thing we can do, is ignore them. We've got to find them.
Yeah.
And start our own currency, our own police force, do our own thing. We don't want them. We don't need them. I mean, when you look at it, as I've said loads of times before, the usury scammers run countries, rule countries, civil servants run countries, and governments are the Punch and Judy show that are there to take your mind away from the fact that they're not ruling. They're just puppets, usury scammers. And people often say they worship Trump. They thought he's this new messiah. I'm sorry, he's the second cheek of the same arse.
Absolutely.
Biden and Trump, they're both the same arse.
Yes.
That is the thing, people, there's a lot of people in the truth movement, Trump, every word he says.
Oh my God, really? Yeah, I hear that a lot as well. Yeah, I hear that a lot. But that phrase, two cheeks of the same backside, one's forgetting that the center really smells.
Precisely. That's a brilliant one, that one. I like that. But Ancient Ruby says, the center stink. Yes, it really does stink. Absolutely. Personally, my faith comes from truth in experiences beyond belief, yet proved to me. Yes.
Absolutely. If it's been proved, then who can refute it?
Bloody hell, you're going to get mobbed, Robert. Better be kisses back to you, Robert. You better be careful when you're walking around. You might need some bodyguards around, So.
As long as they promise not to make me pregnant, I'm quite happy.
That's it. No stopping now.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you.
I'm a bit late. I need a note. What do you think? Lines or note from parents?
Well, no. We should take his pitchfork away from him and his shovel as punishment.
That's right. Yes. Yeah. Chris the Gardener. I'm a bit late.
Hi, Chris. How you doing, mate?
Chat. Hello. Thanks for coming on last week, and you're a regular now, so that's all right, isn't it? But just tuned in to my first live show and trying to catch up. Great to see you're on tonight, Robert.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Chris. Thank you.
Yes.
Love to you and your good lady and your dog and your fur babies as well, your dogs.
Yes.
Love to them.
That's right. And also to your potatoes that are coming up a tree.
Yes, precisely.
Potatoes.
And ladies, it's not a metaphor.
That's right. No, seriously though, we need people like him, because he will teach us how to survive.
You're quite right.
Because number one, we've got to grow our own food. I mean, I told you before we came on here, I grow cabbage from cabbage stumps. It's really easy. You stick it in.
You mentioned this,
as long as you haven't got millions of slugs and snails that I have after growing in buckets.
Yes.
And I actually eat the cabbage raw because it's sweet. It's beautiful.
There will be a lot of iron in that as well.
Yeah.
A lot of iron.
And quite honestly, it's so easy to grow. It really is.
Yes.
Provided you haven't got slugs and snails. Now, this is John Bassinglow from Alabama. What is the truth of Cromwell bringing back the usurers? Right. As we're on YouTube,
the Bank of England.
Right.
In short,
we're on. I might get you a question there. I better be very careful. I'll be very short on this. Okay. Now, what happened is, as I said, Edward I Longshanks, he booted the usurers, and you see, usury came. You had the gold merchants, the goldsmiths, and what it was is that people used to trade in gold, but they found it a bit cumbersome, and they used to barter. So we had goldsmiths that looked after the gold, and they kept them in banks. And they thought, well, okay, instead of actually giving people physical gold, we can give them a promissory note.
Yes.
And you get a promissory note that says, I don't know, I've got so many sovereigns. And people then started using these promissory notes as currency. And the goldsmiths realized that not everybody comes into their banks to get their gold out at the same time. So they invented these promissory notes, and that's where we've got pounds and dollars came from. Because if you look on a pound note, it says, I promise to pay. It's a promissory note. It's a piece of paper. That's all it is.
Interesting that the word gilder comes from that. It comes from gold, gild. Yeah,
gild.
Gilder.
That's right.
Yeah, one of the first currencies.
That built up and built up. And the psychopaths of a certain religion that we normally call Jehovah's Witnesses.
Yes, yeah.
But I mean, I'm not anti whatever because...
Yeah. Easy, Kath Holdsworth, easy. Sorry about that. I'm just reading what you're saying.
That's it. So I'm not anti anybody. I believe in honest, decent folk. If someone says to me, am I anti-psychopath? Ones that harm humans? Yes.
Yep. Yeah, stand in this queue over here with me. Yeah.
Yes,
yeah,
I'm absolutely, I discriminate against them, the ones that harm humans, psychopaths. And so we should all do. But don't harm them. Put them on an island somewhere else, away from us. That's it. Anyway, what happened is that the criminality got so bad in this country that people used to actually file gold coins down and take the edges off. That's why you got milled edges. Stop them filing, and then save the gold and make coins from that. Gold. There's a name for them. So. Edward I Longshanks said, get out, and gave him a certain amount of time to get out, abolish usury, because usury is where you borrow a certain amount of money, and then you have to pay interest on that, which is compound interest, and it keeps going up, and you never pay the loan back. So you're always a slave to the person that lent you the money. So then the person that lent you the money is making money on money. But I won't go into that. Now, what happened, as I say, we were a very prosperous country for 300 years until Cromwell came along, who obviously was against the Roundheads against the Cavaliers, who were the Cavaliers were the Royalists, and they were for the Royals. And of course, we all know its history. As I said earlier, that Cromwell went to the Netherlands to speak to the Jehovah's Witnesses, wink, wink, nod, nod, wink, nudge, because I can't say the word. But the people we're not allowed to criticise, but only the banksters of them. I'm not talking about the ordinary folk. I'm talking about the higher ones. And they said, yes, we will loan you the money, providing that you let us back into the country, and we can start up the Bank of England. And of course, they lent in the money for his new model army. He won the Civil War, cut the king's head off, but then the royalty, the Bank of England was started in 1690. I know that the English Civil War, this is off the top of my head, was I think 1860s. Sorry, what did I talk about? 1660s, I believe. And the Bank of England was set up in the 1691, 92. I'm not sure, but I know it's a 1690s.
I think the Corporation of London, the parent company, predates that.
I think it does, yes. Now, and also, they reinstated the King's son, didn't they?
Yes. And we see the cross of St. George, and we associate it with everything British. Funny how it's always flying from a plastic flag made in China from a BMW, but anyway, on St. George's Day. But anyway, going back to that was their brand, that was their trademark. The bank, the Corporation of London is what we now see as the cross of St. George. That's what we've been educated or miseducated. Now, just a quick one before we move on. Now, John makes this point about Cromwell. America had its parallel to Cromwell in Alexander Hamilton. He was the one that was trying to drag the central banks with much resistance from Jefferson and the rest of the guys. He was bending Washington's ear and really, really trying to actually get that moving. He said, we can't take ourselves seriously as a nation unless we can charge to our credit account. Oh, Deb's in. Oh, Deb's back. Sorry. Hi, Deb. Mwah! Sorry about that. She's just arrived at the bottom. So we can't take ourselves seriously as a nation. And he wanted to actually start running lines of credit, mostly with France. He was trying to get that going. With England, who are the enemy, would you believe? But they weren't really the enemy, because they were using a lot of the people that signed and constructed the Declaration of Independence, and their signatures are on that document, could be considered fifth columnists. I mean, this is a very left field theory, but history will bear me out, because the Constitution itself was, this is why there are so many bloody amendments to the thing. It was flawed almost before the ink was wet. It's exactly like the Magna Carta in a way, on which it's supposed to be based. Now, in terms of the First Amendment, Second Amendment, the Second Amendment, they're trying to put a caveat there now. Sleepy Joe Biden, the paedophilic hair sniffer, he doesn't want automatic weapons now. But anybody listening here from the States, John included, will know that places like Alabama, Tennessee, they love their firearms there. And they've really never forgotten how they got screwed over. They wanted a free America. They said, listen, we're free men. We're finally free of these funny guys that speak with this funny accent that kind of sounds like us but doesn't. And we're finally free of them. We don't mind them coming to visit, but they can they can fuck them all afterwards, and Foxtrot Oscar, and when they're finished, but they never really got rid of it. Now, a lot of people think the Federal Reserve is a wing of the Corporation of London, as is the International Monetary Fund, but that's a very deep rabbit hole to dive into. But what I said earlier on about the parallel for Cromwell in the American Revolution was Alexander Hamilton. And although he didn't get quartered and dragged to the four corners of the country, he did die in a duel, as did his son later on, about 5 or 10 years later.
Really?
They both died in duels. Yeah.
Because the Americans, I mean, it's a bit like when we talk about American independence. That was also taxes. Boston Tea Party was really taxes. Yes. But really, when you look at the American Civil War, which was terrible, when you look at it, that was all to do with finances again, because Abraham Lincoln, again, they'd say that it's to do with slavery, but the northern states had slaves as well as the southern states.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
And it's and also what they don't tell you is there was a lot of, I mean, the Southern Army was a volunteer army. The Northern Army was a conscript army. And the Southern Army had their own black regiments.
They did. They absolutely did. Yeah.
So
and all we.
So, sorry, I was going to say it wasn't. They made it look as if it was to do with slavery.
Yeah.
But Lincoln wasn't the nicest of people.
Absolutely not.
He wasn't a very nice. But the thing that he did do, he introduced the greenback dollar. Which is called greenback to stop fraud, because I don't know if John knows about this, he may do, but the North couldn't fight the South because they didn't have much money, and they were near bankrupt. And there was a general whose name escapes me now, who was also a businessman, and because they went to the Rothschilds, and the Rothschilds said yes, 27% interest, compound interest. Jesus, so Lincoln knew that they would be in debt for several generations. So what they did was introduce the greenback, which was debt-free currency. And of course, they had enough money then to fight the war. And we all know what happens with John Wilkes Booth, who was allegedly financed by the banking families, shot Lincoln and was allowed to escape. The official story says he was burnt to death in a barn, but he wasn't.
Yeah, in a barn, precisely.
They found his dental records in, I think, 1911 in Ohio. But the real fact of the matter is that everybody except two leaders who's tried to abolish usury have been killed.
Oddly enough, with one exception, Andrew Jackson.
Andrew Jackson. That's it. Oh, and the other one was Lloyd George.
Yeah. Andrew Jackson paid the national debt off to zero. He's the only man that I know of in history that's paid it off to zero. He zeroed the debt. Now, there were, I think, about 4 or 5 attempts on his life. Apparently, this fellow tried to shoot him. He had 2 pistols. They both failed, the flintlock things. And Andrew Jackson said, "How dare you, sir?" And absolutely literally caned him with his cane. He beat the living snot. He beat the living chocolate out of this bloke, and he had to be pulled off him. And but that's a bit of a humorous aside. But he was the only one to do it, the only one. And the users, the people, the Schiffs, the Rothschilds, all of these people, all of the Rockefellers later on, the Morgans, and all of these people thought, we cannot let it slip again. We've got to get our hands around this. We've got to grab it with 3 or 4 hands and really squeeze it before, like a wet bar of soap, it slips out again. And it almost did with Lincoln. He was almost there. He was almost there. But I think like Kennedy after him, and Patrice Lumumba and people like that, he didn't keep his own counsel. Now, Kennedy said, "I'm going to shatter the CIA into 1,000 pieces. I'm going to fire this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy." He should have said nothing and just done it all on one day. It should have been like Hitler's Night of the Long Knives, where he zeroed everybody and then put his people in place. But he was surrounded by Yale people, was surrounded by bonesmen, and they were literally gunning for him from day one. And he, sadly, I hate to say it, but he was no angel, let's face it. He was no angel, because he was all for bumping off Castro. He was all for doing that. And then he changed his mind or whatever else. But the thing about it is that had he have kept his own counsel, I think his brains would have been kept intact, and they probably would have shot Johnson instead. Looked a couple of cars behind and shot him. But the thing about it is that we have got to learn from that. We've got to learn to take our back, like you said earlier on. I think Ruby said it earlier on as well, and a lot of the people in chat. Take our bat and ball and go and play someplace else, because they cannot play this game solo. It's not solitaire. This is poker. And if we take our hand away, our straights, our flushes, and whatever else we've got in the deck, we could take our own deck and play someplace else. And we will probably have to take a hit in lifestyle, in standard of living. Cost of living may go through the roof. We're probably better off paying 60p in the pound more for a loaf of bread than have a subsidized loaf of bread that is poisoned, which is what we're doing now.
That's exactly what we're doing. And also, who would have ever dreamt, say, during the Cold War? So I tell you, people, we lost the Cold War. I mean, I don't know whether John Badinot would agree with that, but I think we lost the Cold War, because when you listen to what Yuri Bezmenov said, he said he couldn't believe it when he actually went over to the West. He defected to the West in 1970. He said he couldn't believe how far advanced ideological subversion had got. And he said, with every minute, he said, if we stopped, and this was in the 80s, he said, if we stopped subversion now, it would take 2 to 3 generations to stop it in the future. He said, what it is fighting a war without firing a shot, because all you do, you just get into the universities, and he said, you actually alter the soft heads of the students, and you get all these lefty lobbies to literally take it over.
Absolutely.
And that's it. I mean, when you look at the things were moving forward, and America was, as he said, the last place of freedom. And who would have ever dreamt that Canada was looked on as the bastion of free speech and everything. You went to Canada for freedom. They'd open their arms to anybody. Now, I think, again, they're slightly more left-wing than California,
Oh, my God, It's just, it's horrible. It's horrible what he's done. And that is a beautiful country. And he's absolutely made a right horlicks of. Oh, he's done it on purpose. I mean, we have infiltrated that. They have done. They have infiltrated. We have penetrated, and they have penetrated in more ways than one. Because I think I've heard that Justine Trudeau can hit with the other side of the racket, if you see what I mean, as well. So there is that inference.
Well, look at his dad. His real dad.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yes. Oh yes. And his his mother.
That's right. She was what they called a martini girl. Anytime, any place, anywhere.
Yes, the original good time had by all.
Have you seen that picture of her with a miniskirt, airing her views?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, I said that rather politely. Yeah. Why would you do that? You know, showing her wares, shall we say? I think.
Sorry, but I think we're getting a bit off piece. We just jump back in. Sorry, folks, for having a natter here.
It just put me off my water. That was, you know. Right, here we go. H. Ruby, what are they doing to us? What they are doing to us all now has been tried before and they lost.
Quite right.
Yes.
Not our first rodeo as mankind.
Well, it's what Dan MC says.
Sorry about that. I must have. Sorry, Dan. Two great minds in a single thought.
Yes.
Sorry about that, Dan.
Right. The thing is, I haven't read ahead, so I might just read these out. Where are we? We got Chris Garner says, Louise, the accent kicks in when I'm amongst my West Norfolk peers who are. It's a bit like us. Now, I don't think Robert and I have got an accent because we come from the same neck of the woods. But
well, I'm actually from the West Midlands, by the way.
Yeah, you got a slight West Midlands there, but I think you've.
Yeah. I'm from. I was a posh Brummie. I was the one that they allowed to wear shoes and escape. But I was. I've never really had much of an accent. It's always been an everyman accent. I was always seen as posh. And when I go back up to the hinterland, up to the Black Country to go and watch my beloved West Bromwich Albion, they actually need a phrase book for me. That's what their joke is, that they need a phrase book. Yeah. What are you doing like that? You know, it's a little bit. That's actually the Black Country there, which is just on the Sandwell, Handsworth borders. But I mean, I should really be a Birmingham City fan, but because I was born and bred and buttered not far from the ground, but for some reason I ended up supporting West Brom. I think so.
That's life. But Birmingham, though, I mean, when you think about it.
Yeah.
I mean, when you look around London, people say we're Cockneys, but we're very different to Cockney accent.
Absolutely, yes.
We are home counties accent. Basically.
Yes, that's it. Thames Estuary English, they call it, don't they? Thames Estuary. Yeah.
Now it says here. We've got Louise Wilcox says, "Hello, Chris. Hope you're well. Thanks for the interesting show last week."
Yes.
Kind of, yeah. Yes. He's a good Chris the Gardener. Here we go.
He's a good man.
Kath says, very few ever bother to research a meme, just like the content, so share it.
Yes. How many videos has everybody had forwarded on TikTok, Telegram, WhatsApp with you don't know what the origin is? You get some guy pontificating on saving interest rates on mortgages or whatever else. You don't know where the hell this guy comes from.
That's it. Yes.
Then
this is the latest. There's a beauty. Sorry, I don't mean to cut in there.
No, go ahead, Chris. Carry on. Yeah.
Sure. Thanks. Sorry, finish what you were going to say. That was a bit rude of me.
I tend to delete them now. Because you want to know the origin of these guys. You want to know where this slap fight originated, whether it was in Malaysia or Los Angeles or San Diego or bloody Paris. We don't know where these bloody things come from. And the world has become such a small place now that it could be from anywhere. I mean, we could be doing this. I could be in Costa Rica and you could be in Plymouth now. Do you see what I mean? So it's... yeah, precisely. It's only but for the faith of the faithful that they really believe I'm actually not a hologram and I'm a real person. So, carry on, Chris.
They'll probably be looking back on this, saying, you know, that's if civilization survives. But I was going to say, I saw a TikTok one today and I couldn't stop laughing.
Yeah.
It's a bloke looking at an old church, a Norman church,
Yeah.
And he said, oh, they knew how to harness power, you see.
Yeah.
So he looks up, and there's a lightning conductor.
Yeah.
Going down.
Right.
Now, this
Right.
was a cable going down. Then he points to this thing, which in the wall was carved in a line with a line going up and like a sun sort of symbol. And it was made of steel, I think it was.
Right.
Now, I know what that is. And he said, this is where people plug things in to get their power from. No, it bleeding isn't. It's a datum line, which surveyors use, and I've used, because in architecture, you have to do surveying occasionally.
Yeah.
I did a survey once in around Billingsgate area, some old buildings, where they're going to do some, and they've got datum lines all the way around. And what they are, they're telling you what level it is above sea level, and it's Newlyn datum. And the Victorians did that.
Yeah.
So if you go around the city, you'll see a line. It looks like the sun with a circle, and then a line going up at right angles, and lines going out at 45 degrees. And people say, oh, it's a sonic sign. No, it bloody isn't. It's a datum line. Numbers on it. And this ding dong, because it was made of steel, thought it was where they used to plug ancient things into to get electricity from.
How amazing.
No, it's a lightning conductor to stop the steeple falling off when it's like.
Yeah.
Now, people will believe that. It's a bit like another conspiracy that Stonehenge didn't exist and was only built in the 1950s. Bullshit.
Yeah.
There's pictures and paintings of Stonehenge in the 17th and 18th century. What they did, they reconstructed. They actually repaired it in the 50s. And I know because when I was a little nipper, my mummy and daddy took me there when I was 45. No, when I was about 10. And we went there and they had a little exhibition when it was free to get in. I'm going back a bit there. And they showed you all the pictures. I'm proud of it, the way they rebuilt Stonehenge. So it was the shit of the bull. And this is what's getting me. People will look at that thing about that ancient church and think, oh, yes. They knew how to
swallow it whole. Yeah.
It's a datum bloody level. Yeah. Surveyors and architects, that must be piddling themselves laughing. I did. I thought, what a wally. What's simple showing you can get the power.
But we have become.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Look at an old church, and Victorian especially, and old Victorian buildings, town halls, not every private house, no. But town halls, big buildings, had a datum level, and you'll see how many feet it was. It's feet in those days above Newlyn. It is because Newlyn is the level they said is 0, and that's it. Newlyn datum, which is I think is in Cornwall. So that's sorry, that's it.
That's fine. But we've actually become skeptical of the truth and accepting of our truth. Whatever we want to believe. Now, I mean, it were ever thus, but that comment earlier on about just accepting memes at face value and not researching them, it goes to prove how unplugged and disconnected that we've become. We're not curious anymore. We're not saying, well, why? We're not doing that. And they want that. Because then they can feed us with anything they want, steer us into any course, any little Freudian dark alley that they want to. I mean, I heard a very good thing. They don't call him Sigmund Freud; they call him Sigmund Fraud. and I just thought, and it was the boys from the sheep farm again. And I just thought, I had a little look, and I thought, they're right. They're right. None of what they do, what they say, really, it's what I call specious reasoning. It sounds really very, very plausible to start with. But when you drill down to the couple of dermis layers lower, you find you get nearer to the truth. And you think to yourself, this isn't a load of tosh. Why on earth would I believe that? And I'm glad we've got a lot of fellow cynics here.
Yeah.
That will question that and will say, actually, I don't believe that, and I'm not going to ascribe to that. I'm going to sit over here in my corner leave me alone with my biscuits and my cup of tea. And I hope Foxy's got his little bonuses from Tesco or Sainsbury's, because he hunts for the reduced things after dark hours, and so he can have his cup of tea. So I don't. Hey, listen, we've all got to save a buck. Me too. But so I hope he's in his little lair with his little flicking his little bushy tail, having his cup of tea. But I think we've got to suspending disbelief, maybe. But I think we've actually all got to. This new era that we're in here has made us more cynical about everything. But instead of hurrying to call people shills, let's just find out if what they're saying has a grain of truth in it. Take the truth, because that's always good. It's literally like taking the vitamins out of whatever food. If we could actually take just the good stuff, the vitamins, the minerals, the iron, all of the good stuff out of food, and then jettison the rest, the world would be a much better place. And we'd be able to eat anything because we'd be able to process it. We should be the same with information. We should be the same with what we believe in, what we have faith in, what we ascribe to. Now, Ancient Ruby made a really good point. She goes, I don't care what anybody says. I have a lived experience. It's my lived experience. I've got to believe in myself. And she's absolutely right when she says that. And I think that would be echoed through everybody else in the chat. Incidentally, 14 is absolutely sinful. It's really shameful. You should all feel thoroughly ashamed of yourself. If I could have clicked 14 times, I would have done that. So now you're dreaming now, Robert. We cannot do that until we sack our government. But I take issue with an ancient movie about that. But we'll pick that up another time. But we were back in the chat. But ancient, if I could just leap ahead, we were talking about. She said, "Now you're dreaming, Robert. Lowell. We cannot do that until we sack our governments." Now, governments are about it's a little bit like the word democracy. It's made out of two words: demos, which is people, and kratis, which is control. Now, this is why democracy doesn't bloody work, because they've got too much kratis and not enough demos. So governments, I'm afraid, Louise, will have to be our own government. So we don't need to sack them, just walk away from them and just like I said, take our own bat and ball and play someplace else.
Well, they're a pantomime act. I mean, left wing, right wing.
She's quite right.
That type of thing. I mean, strangely enough, I've got a lot of faith in humanity, because there's a Nigerian chap. Well, I say Nigerian, he's born over here, and his parents are Nigerian. And he said that what's happened in Nigeria with the old... He said, it's the people who think they're educated, they've been queuing up and getting it, but the ordinary folk, like the farmer and a bloke down the road selling greens and whatever, they're not taking it because they know what governments are all about. So he said the ordinary working person, they're really queued up, where it's this sort of snobby upper class. Hey, we're going to have the... He said they're the ones that are taking it. He said the gullible ones. And it was quite interesting, but I'm not sure if it's Nigeria, but I know that... Because have you ever seen that picture of Africa with Britain highlighted on there, how small it is compared with Africa?
Yes.
And I think it could be Kenya. And it doesn't matter, somewhere there. And also in Australia, they're doing this. People are growing their own vegetables and then putting like a little stall and putting, because you always grow too many, I've found. So like, for example, when the season comes, I'm growing tomatoes. I'm going to be up to my arse in tomatoes.
Right, okay.
Hopefully, if they come along. So that'll be too many for me. What they do, they put their over produce in, and people can take the food. There's no money exchange, using honesty. Yes. And then any abundance they've got, they give back. Yes. So they're asking people in their gardens, any abundance they've got, and they're doing it, I think, in sort of suburbs and places like that. And it seems to be working. So
Chris mentioned that last week. Chris mentioned that last week about him having a surplus and then giving it to his neighbour, or Apparently the neighbor that he likes, apparently there's one that he doesn't, so, or that they don't get on, or whatever it was. I can't remember what it was, but I don't think they get on. But Chris was saying that. So again, and we have a surplus. If I have a surplus of potatoes and you have a surplus of carrots, then we work it out. We work it out through humanity and through ourselves. Sorry, Chris, we're disturbing chat. We're sort of trying to roll through this.
Right, shall we quickly whiz through, because we've got 1:45, so we've got about 5 or 10 minutes. So we got.
Oh shit!
So we got. So don't worry. So he says, ancient Roots. The only reason they were not of peace and love, Chris, was because they would not be controlled, and the government massacred them, and still are, because they are spiritual and stand their grounds. I think Ancient Rube is talking about the North American Indians. I think it's a very wide brush there, because some tribes were bloody aggressive.
Oh God,
others, like the Beaker people, were very placid. But
Dory would be able to shed some more light on that, because not only is she part, I don't know, Hopi or Cherokee or whatever it is, but she has actually done quite a bit of study into the ethnicity of these peoples as well. So I think she'd be better qualified, I think.
But, when they first landed, what was it? What they call them now? Not the Puritans, the first
Pilgrims. Pilgrims, yeah.
That's the word. Thanks. But when they first landed in America, it was thanks to the Indians that they survived, because the Indians showed them how to grow the crops. And they were very friendly. The Indians.
And how's that for humanity? How's that for love of your fellow man? Yeah. This guy's got 2 legs like me. He's got 2 arms, 2 ears, nose, and mouth, and whatever else. And let's just get on.
Look what happened in Australia. The prisoners, because a lot of the prisoners that were shipped to Australia in the early days refused to take the cowpox, and they were actually shipped to Australia as prisoners, because it was compulsory, you had to have it. And a lot of the prisoners escaped, and the only people that could help them, and they did help them, were the Aborigines. And you'll notice that there's some Aborigine tribes that are very white because they intermarried and they became like Aborigines. And there was they showed you a documentary from the 50s. I think it was Alan Wicker. I could be wrong on that. I think it was him interviewing a bloke who lived amongst the Aborigines and had an Aborigine wife. I'm not sure.
I think you're right. It was Wicker, I think.
Yeah, and I think he was an escaped prisoner, but in the 30s, 20s and 30s, he lived with the Aborigines. He could speak their language.
Right. Okay.
So he was a sort of white man that went native, as they say.
Right.
And he was saying about the respect he's got from them. I mean, what I like about the Aborigines, they have walkabout. And I worked with a chap that lived in Australia. I worked with a lot of Australians, and they said that when in the drawing office, they'll have a very highly educated Aborigine, but they'll disappear for a couple of weeks when they go walkabout, because they haven't lost the links to their native land. So there was
it's like a rite of passage, isn't it? Like a communion in a way, yeah.
Every so often they go walkabout.
Reconnecting to the earth. Yeah, right, okay. Because the Aborigines, am I right in thinking they believe that it's Mother Earth. This is our mother. Yeah. We belong to the earth. It doesn't belong to us. So that bears out what you're saying. Yeah, sorry, carry on, please.
Well, that's right. I mean, I've got the people I've got the greatest respect for, though, is the Kalahari Bushmen. Bloody God. What they go through to catch their food. And the most peaceful, placid, nicest people. Yeah. Let's put it this way. If I was in a plane crash landing in the middle of nowhere, I would land near them. You'd survive all right there. But mind you, the Aborigines would. They would tell to survive, because the thing is that when you look, the most terrible thing is that Aborigines are wiped out in Tasmania completely. They completely wiped them out, which was horrendous. But then you see, it was the stronger tribes taking from the weaker tribes. This is what happened in the North American Indians. The stronger took from the weaker.
And the more warlike, aggressive.
Well, that's right. That's right. Yeah. But then you see, I don't know, have you ever seen that film? Was it The Rabbit Fence?
Rabbit-proof fence.
That's it.
Yeah.
It's incredible. Like, those girls walked thousands of miles to get back what a story, you know.
Well, do you remember the film Walkabout with Jenny Agutter?
Yes.
Yeah.
That
I mean,
was
that there's more than one good reason to be watching that anyway. But I mean,
yes.
especially when she was at the height of her powers, she was really she wasn't hard to look at, was she? Let's face it. But
Well, that's right.
yeah.
It made me drop my chalk ice. That's
Yes.
it's,
but they were saved by a guy that was on walkabout by an adolescent Aboriginal kid.
That's right.
And he basically took them back to safety. And then I think he went, I can't remember, he came to a slightly unseemly end at the end of that, didn't he?
Oh, that's right.
Jono, if Jono's in the chat, Jono would be able to tell us.
He hung himself
Thompson.
in the film.
He did, that's it, yeah, precisely. I can't remember why that was, though, yeah.
There's a true story of just before World War II, two Germans in a seaplane tried to fly across, I think this is Big Sea or something, to land to Australia, to land in on an island close to Australia, and they got lost and actually landed in Australia.
Right.
And it's just desert and sea. They thought they could walk across the island because they was on island, but they weren't. They're walking further into the desert.
Jesus.
And they were being tracked by Aborigines. And they were frightened because they thought, and then suddenly an Aborigine went up to them and they thought, they looked pretty aggressive. And he gave one of the parts a note. When he opened it, it said, "You're quite safe. I am a missionary. These people are here to save you. They will look after you and take you back to the mission." And they saved these two pilots' lives. One of them went mad because of the lack of water and food.
Of course, dehydration.
Survived. And it was thanks to these Aborigines that saved them because they knew how to survive. And it was amazing. And they actually carried them back and they bathed their wounds because they knew how to deal with sunburn. They was putting stuff on for sun, but they knew exactly what to use.
That's incredible. That would make a phenomenal film. Somebody should write a screenplay about that. It was. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's a true story. Actual true story.
I would love to see
one of them. One of the parts who survived went back to Germany and got killed in World War II.
Bloody hell! Of all the luck, eh? Jesus.
Yeah. There was also.
Sorry, Chris. Can we just welcome Aunt Sally into chat? Sally.
Aunt Sally.
I hope you had a good walk. Welcome. Sorry about that.
Hello, Aunt Sally. But there was another one where Australians. I don't know if you've seen Bush Tucker. He actually taught the Australian army how to survive in the on the back in the bush.
In the actual bush itself.
Had to do it. And apparently there was some pilots plane that crashed in the desert, and again the Aborigines found them and saved their lives and brought them back to civilization. And quite an amazing tribe to live in the desert.
Yeah, they were quite something, the Australian soldiers in Vietnam, weren't they? Because they worked as a cell with the Americans, didn't they?
Oh yes, the American, and also New Zealanders went to Vietnam as well.
Yes, yeah. So Stig, props to Stig. Sorry about that. Yeah, because he's a Kiwi boy, isn't he? Yeah.
And it was compulsory as well. They had compulsory military service in Australia and New Zealand.
Yes.
And America wanted Britain to join in 1966.
Yes.
It was. And Harold Wilson, he went over, didn't get on with Johnson, and told him basically to shove it. And that's why the British pound went through the roof, and they tried to bankrupt the country because he wouldn't play ball.
Yeah, and they had trade embargoes as well. They put trade embargoes on American goods and vice versa, didn't they? At one point.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
That's
Yes. So
but I've read that there was a special forces cell. It'd probably be the SAS, Long Range Desert Patrol. Ord Wingate and all. I think he was dead by then, but all of his cronies were in the bush with the French. And watch the French get their backsides handed to them, stayed there, and were going to advise the Americans. And then Wilson pulled them out. That's what I've heard.
No, what happened? It was French Indochina. And what happened in 1945, the Viet Minh, I think it was, or the Viet Cong, well known as Viet Cong there. And the communists were coming south. And the British Army, this is 100% true, you look this up, the British Army had very slim on the ground, because obviously World War II has just ended. And there was a huge number of POW Japanese. So what they did a deal with the Japanese where they gave them their arms back, and under British officers, they fought the communists. And they reckoned that they were invincible. And they really were. Well, the British and the Japanese were absolutely well. And they were pushing the Vietnam back and back and back and back and back. And then politics came over. And they handed which was known as French Indochina, back to the French, who were completely incapable of fighting a jungle warfare, which the Japanese are trained in and the British are trained in. And of course, what happened? They got pushed back by the communists. And then you had the Bay of Tonkin incident in 1964, because what happened is the French got out of French Indochina. They even moved Braves out of there, because they knew they were beaten. And the Americans needed an excuse to get involved. So in 1964, you had the Bay of Tonkin incident.
False flag.
False flag. And that's actually in Encyclopedia Britannica, if you look it up. It's false flag. And as you know, the rest is history. America was then involved in the longest war I think it's ever had in history, 12 years I think it was. Amazing. And that was from about 64 until about 1975.
Yeah, 75,
Then the British were involved discreetly, because the SAS were involved. I know that for a fact. They say the British weren't, but they were. They were the advising, and they were in the jungle. And it's still top secret, but I know that from a fact, from a daughter of a bloke, daughter of a fella who was an expert in jungle warfare in Burma.
You mentioned this on Evergreen Radio.
Yeah.
You did mention it. I remember you saying that. Yeah. It's interesting. That's
so he called it, so he was an advisor. So they were, British were involved in a, not an official way. The same as, I think they're involved in Ukraine, probably.
I worked with a couple of ex-Royal Marines, ex-Royal Green Jacket. They were in the cyber unit at the place where I worked. And the Royal Marines are over there, but they're not wearing their normal uniforms. They're over there as advisors. Advisors. And I mean their weapons drills are, apparently if you look at them, it looks like watching the paras. It looks like watching the Royal Marines. It looks like watching the guards do weapons drills or rifles drills, because they've retrained them. So we may not be stocking them with ordnance or whatever else. We may be a third party or whatever else. Raytheon, Lockheed Martin, and the rest of the armaments companies may be feeding them through a intermediary, but there's nothing more profitable than war.
That's right. But I'll tell you something. The Russians are doing exactly what they did with Napoleon, and exactly what they did in World War II. They're dropping back and getting their enemy to come to them, and then pincer movement straight around.
Absolutely, you're quite right. And that's they believe in their methodology, don't they? And they're quite right.
It's very successful.
Yes, you can't complain about that. You can't fault them.
We got here, what is it? Sailaway said the prop plane was called a Sky Raider. That's right. Yes, in Vietnam.
That was certainly one of them. I think they used another one, but he's quite right.
They also used a Mustang, didn't they? Sometimes used a Mustang.
I think so, in the very early parts, yeah. Definitely in Korea they used the props.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Now we got here.
Because it was a mixture.
We all have power, Robert, this Ancient Ruby. Your voice and your laughter and your love. Thank you. Oh, isn't that nice?
No, she deserves another one for that.
She needs another one. Now I'm slipping through these really quick now.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No, that's okay. It says here, are you an atheist who believes Satan is real?
Is he addressing that to me or you?
I don't know, but I don't rate myself. I'm not religious, but I don't rate myself as an atheist as such. But I don't, because I believe there's an energy, but I don't know what the energy is.
Mm. So and I'm not allowed to be an atheist because my mother wouldn't let me. So yeah. The Methodists and the Satan worshippers, they have to play in separate football teams in Birmingham, you know. So
that's right. Sebastian Moran has said, you will soon see UFOs. There will be holograms. Yes, I think we will be seeing UFOs soon. You know.
Welcome, Sebastian, by the way. I think I think we're already seeing them, you know. We are already seeing them. I've seen a lot of dark grey aeroplanes, and they're literally traveling incredibly slowly. And I think maybe I don't know if I'm not an avionics expert or anything else, but they seem to be traveling incredibly slowly. And I've seen a couple not so long ago about that. What I'll try and do is I'll try and shoot some footage the next time I see you, actually.
That's excellent. Now, the thing is, Haji has said, sorry, mate, we haven't featured you lot, and you've put a lot in chat. I'm sorry about this. Don't take it personally. It's just we got a lot here. Now, he says,
sorry, Haji.
Sorry, Ashley, yes, we come into the world with nothing. We leave the same way. Hopefully, the knowledge I've learned will guide me elsewhere. Yes, I think we go into a different dimension or something. Yes. But I do believe in karma. And I believe that if you put out karma, it will come back to you. And that's a very simple sort of, you know.
Especially if you do it from a point of humanity and love for your fellow man, or respect, or wanting to help. If you do it because you want to get something back, that's not karma anymore. That's a quid pro quo. That's a different thing. That's actually a debt in a way, because you then place somebody in your debt because you've done something for them. It's literally like me going to Sail Away or Ancient Ruby or Dan MC and saying, listen, I've just bought you a Starbucks. And then the next day, you say to them, are you going to Starbucks, Dan? Or Ancient Ruby? And they'll think, yeah, that son of a bitch, he wants me to buy him one, doesn't he? You see, so that's a quid pro quo. That's a favor for a favor. But if you just do it because I like Ruby or I like Sail Away or Dan MC, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You just do it because you do it from your heart, and that's the best gift you can do. The best gift you can do.
It's little things, little tiny things.
Yes.
That, I mean, for example, my neighbour of mine, I always use like a notepad. They're what the police use, like a notepad used to. You know?
Yes, yeah.
But
only you tell the truth in yours, don't you? Yeah,
yeah. But what gets me, people use their smartphones. I don't for that. I just make notes in a little notepad. And my neighbour said, well, that's a good idea. So I gave her a notepad. And she said, isn't it great? I said, yeah. And little things like that. And that is, now, I mean, I'm not a Buddhist, but I lean in that direction. But I don't think I'm anything really. I just like to be myself. That's it.
Precisely.
It says here, Haji said, we saw helicopters for the first time in Vietnam. Yes, the Bellevue ones. We've yet to see what the drones can really do. That's right. And then we've got Cromwell's loyalty, Sebastian Moran, was paid for in chopping up his dead body and sent to the Four Corners. That's right. They did. Yes, he was. They went against it, but you will never hear Cromwell mentioned in Ireland because he absolutely
not. Jesus, yeah. Excellent film, by the way, starring Richard Harris, called Cromwell.
Yes.
An excellent film.
I can't read this. Oh, that's right. Yes. And it was Alec Guinness who acted the part.
Oh, he's the king, isn't he? Alec Guinness. Use the force. Use the force, Cromwell. Use the force. Yeah. He's great.
I can't read this out for obvious reasons. So
right.
But let's put it this way: we're not against ordinary people. It's the upper echelons. Okay.
Kath is going to get smacked legs if she's not careful. She's a very naughty girl, but I love where she's going there. I love where she's going.
Kath, you've got to be careful. You've got
we do. Yes.
I don't really fancy learning how to pick up the soap without bending down. or spending time in a prison. So
This is true. Yes.
We're all being fluffy, bunny, and nice, aren't we?
Yes.
Yeah.
Meeting big dollars from B-Wing. Yeah.
That's right. There's many a Cromwell. Yes.
He's quite right. He's quite right. They all aspire. They all aspire to doing what he did and not going wrong where he went wrong. And they're trying to skate in between. You get people like Hancock, people like him, the successful peasants, the people that ingratiate themselves onto the next echelon so that they can basically get onto the slippery pole and try and climb up. You get people like him, Whitty as well. Yeah, they're all like that, you know. They're all like that.
We got Deb. Oh,
Deb,
big
massive hugs for Deb. Love you, Deb. Love you.
Kindness, nice thoughts. Even though not stopping, just popped in to say hello and to thank you, those who have sent kind messages. Thank you. That's nice. And we'll look forward. We're missing you, Deb. So
we are missing you, yeah.
Yes, and we were talking about you earlier. About your ears are burning. Nice things.
Absolutely nice things.
Yeah. And glad you're okay, Deb. That's from Kath. Now, this is an interesting one. Sebastian Moran says the real English flag is a white dragon, red background, I think.
Where did you get that information, though, Sebastian? Sorry, I'm calling you Seb. I'd like to find out. I'd like to find that out because I'm interested in heraldic symbols and flags and things like that. That'd be interesting.
Well, the way I heard it is we're not British because British is the aristocracy, the Normans.
Yes.
We're English. Yes. One of the most discriminated groups in the world.
Marginalised too. Yeah.
Yes. Because we're not allowed to have a lot of things that I mean, you know, it's quite interesting. But
that's interesting, Sebastian. I'd love to find out a little bit more about that. Actually, I'd love to find that out.
Right, that's interesting. I just go. Oh, Ancient Ruby says karma is real.
She's quite right. She's quite right.
Oh, hang on, sail away. Another. See, we're playing. Bronco, yes, the Bronco. That was the twin boom plane, wasn't it? With the Bronco,
right, yes,
plane used in NAM. Yes, yes, a very, very well designed plane, and a lot of the pilots liked flying Broncos.
Nice, well, yeah, because it was
great. They were very prone to being hit by SAM missiles.
Yes, precisely.
Yes, but yes. Anyway, I think we better wrap the show up now because we've gone over our time a little bit.
Oh my God, yeah.
And that shows that it's a bloody good interested, bloody good lot in chat. Thanks everybody in chat.
It's great.
I'm really proud of everybody in chat because you really make the show what it is. And the show would be nowhere. So we need you in chat if it wasn't for chat. That obviously but you know, good night everyone. And remember, now I'm hoping to get John Hamer back next week to talk about the universe. And people say, okay, when's this person coming on again? And I say the same to everybody. There's regular guests and there's one-off guests. With regular guests, what we do is about every 3 to 6 weeks. So we've got John Hamer, we've got Andrew Johnson, we've got, I'm hoping to ask Andrew, I've got to be careful what we say about the trial of Richard D. Hall.
Yes.
And if you'd like to go onto Rich Planet and send him some folding stuff, he desperately needs it.
He needs a bit of love, Richard does.
He needs some positive thoughts and some help because we know how corrupt our courts are.
Absolutely.
So we got to send him everything. He needs a lot of support. And they cut off his some way you pay money. You can only do it by backs now or by check. So that's and who else is there? Oh, there's loads of other regulars that I can't remember. But anyway, I was Chris the Gardener as well, Oh, there's Miles as well.
Yes.
Yes, I'm going to see him on Wednesday to talk about saying, "Oi, why don't you come on the bloody program and get him kicking and screaming onto the show?" So there we go.
Oddly enough, can I just mention something really quickly and send a lot of best wishes out to Anna de Buisseret, the lawyer. She's just been diagnosed with cancer.
Oh no!
And there's a GoFundMe page. Anybody on Telegram, just hop onto Anna de Buisseret. That's that lovely lady that was basically pushing back early doors in this nonsense that we've been going through. Now, she deserves a lot of love and support. I mean, she's John would really love her because she's ex-military as well. And she's a lawyer. She was in office. I think she went to Sandhurst. She was an officer in the army. And but I think we'd all know who she is, this lady. But I had a message yesterday from Laurie, a friend of mine from our Stand in the Park group, that that she's not suffering, but it's not very pleasant, the treatment. And I would hope for her to get away from things like radiotherapy and all the rest of that nonsense, because that is not good. Passing radiation through a human tissue isn't good. There's a reason why when you have an X-ray, the person stands in the next room.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Precisely.
Yeah. You know, you're talking about anaesthetic earlier. And people think, oh, well, when I go to the dentist, now I don't have an anaesthetic.
Really?
You've got to go to a good dentist.
Right.
No, I don't have an anaesthetic at all. And
really?
No.
That's interesting.
And it's not that painful because she's very careful. Sometimes she does it accidentally hit another.
Yeah. Yeah, precisely.
Said,
yeah.
Please put your hand up. I said, no, there's no need to. You'll have to pull my legs down from the ceiling. And sometimes your eyes water a bit. You're thinking,
oh, Jesus Christ, yeah.
I'm having my, I'm waiting until they fall out. The amalgam's placed with plastic.
Right.
But you can actually have porcelain, so they say.
Yeah, that's what I've got. I've got one.
Porcelain. They're bloody expensive.
Not cheap. I was just going to say they're not cheap, but they're worth every penny. They're fantastic.
Really?
What you might consider, Chris, is a dentist that treats you with ozone. There are quite a few. Okay. Because as you know, I've got my ozone air generator. It's actually going on in the kitchen at the moment to clean the air in the kitchen. And it also uses as to clean my water as well to drink. So it's something you must think of. What I'll do is after the show, I'll send you some bits and pieces.
Oh, yes, please, yes. Well,
absolutely,
that's
absolutely.
Interesting. But
Miles might be able to trick you up to it as well. He might have a contact there as well. But sorry, we're gassing on.
So very quickly, I'll take you into a little something. It might be some feedback from chat. With Miles, what we're going to do is he can't make it on Mondays. It's his busiest day. Thursdays, people miss the Thursday show. So what we're going to do is very short 2-minute extract things like that, and we'll put them in these shows. So Miles pops in, and they'll go out on a
great idea.
Well.
Yeah,
so that's what we're planning to do. And Sebastian has said George slayed the Saxon dragon.
Interesting.
Slayed the Saxon dragon because well, I'm a bit Saxon, so he slayed me, and my ancestors. Anyway, thank you very much for joining us. Join us same time, same place next week. Robert will be back because he's a regular guest in a couple of weeks' time. That's if you like to come back. And we've got where are we? Because Neb's not here, you see, I've got to do it all management. That's it. So thank you very much. And whatever happens, have a bloody good laugh. So good night, everybody, and see you at this same time next week.
Good night.